Hi, welcome to the learning of the poem Incident of the French Camp. This is Unit 6 poem. Before we go into the poem, let's know something about the poet, okay? Robert Browning. He was born on 7th May 1812 and he died on 12th December 1889. He was an English poet and playwright. He was a writer and creator of theatrical plays. No, his mastery of the dramatic monologue made him one of the foremost Victorian poets. So, what made him one of the leading Victorian poets was his mastery skill of dramatic. He just brings out everything in a dramatic version. And here he writes as a monologue. He was born in Camberwell, a suburb of London, on 7 May 1812. He was educated mainly at home, but he attended a short course in Greek at London University. So most of his education was from home. Only he did a short course in Greek language at London University. His poems are known for their irony. Irony means the opposite of what is literally means. Okay, if it has some meaning, but it brings the opposite of that meaning. That is irony. Characterization, dark humor, social commentary, historical settings, and challenging vocabulary and syntax. Syntax is rules to govern how words are combined to make or to form phrases and sentences. So, his poems are known for all these things. He developed a unique form or conversational, unrhythmic verse. So he has his own way of writing in a conversational and unrhythmic verse. The collection Dramatis Personae and the book length epic poem The Ring and the Book made him a leading British poet. So these two collections made him a leading British poet. By 1881, in recognition of his outstanding contribution to literature, a literary society called Browning Society was established. So, this Browning Society was established to recognize his outstanding contribution to literature. He has done a lot for literature. Okay, let's move on to the introduction part of the poem. What it is happening actually. Napoleon Bonaparte, 1769 to 1821. He was originally an officer in the French army. Okay, when he joined in the French army, he was just an officer, but he became the army chief and a legendary warrior who later known for his military skill and genius. So Napoleon Bonaparte was known for his military skill and he became the army chief. The poem Incident of the French Camp narrates an actual incident in the war. So it's not a written story, it's not a fiction, or it's not any other built in story. It is an actual incident in the war in 1809. The war was between France and Austria, and it was led by Napoleon for France. Napoleon was standing on a little mount, eagerly looking towards Ratisbon. His mind was oppressed with anxious thoughts, and he said to himself that all his ambitious plans would come to nothing if Marshal Lannes failed to storm Ratisbon. So the poem starts as if Napoleon was standing on a little hill and he was very eagerly looking towards a place called Ratisbon. That was a city in Austria. And Napoleon's mind was completely occupied with thoughts, the thoughts of anxiety. He was very much concerned in his thoughts, and he was talking to himself about his plans, what my plans would become. I have so many thoughts going on in my mind. I want to do these things, but if Lance, who is Lance? Lance is a general in Napoleon's army, Marshal Lance. If he failed to storm, to conquer, to defeat Ratisbon, all his plans would be shattered. And his mind was fully occupied with these thoughts. You know, just have this in mind and just imagine that Napoleon was standing on a little mound with these thoughts. Okay, the poem describes an act of chivalry. Chivalry means valiance, courage. Then gallantry. Gallantry means boldness, valor. So, an act of valiance, courage, boldness, valor, patriotism, and sacrifice on the part of a young French soldier. It describes an act of a young French soldier. See how many adjectives. He was a valiant, he was a bold, he was a patriotic, and he was sacrificial. You know, so the person whom you see on the horse was that young French soldier. This is for your identification. Let's move on to the poem. You know, we French stormed Ratisbon, a mile or so away. On a little mound, Napoleon stood on our storming day. So he's beginning the poem. The writer Robert Browning says like this, you know, we French stormed Ratisbon. Storm means what? We suddenly and violently attack that city in Austria, that is Ratisbon, which is a mile away. On a little hill, Napoleon was standing. That was a storming day. And the next four lines express the posture of his standing. He was standing with his neck extended forward. You imagine, fancy means you imagine how legs wide, arms locked behind, as if to balance the prone brow oppressive with its mind. When you think, you bring down your brow in an inclined position. It is inclined downward. You just do as if you're thinking. Your brow will come down. So his standing posture was like that, you know, with his neck outstretched, outthrust, and legs wide, and arms locked behind, and his eyebrow inclined downward, and his mind was occupied with the thought what would happen to Ratisbon. He is much worried about the result. He was much worried about the result. So during the attack of the French army of Ratisbon, Napoleon was anxious about the result because Austrians were defending Ratisbon with great determination and courage. That's why Napoleon was very curious, anxious, watching the war standing on a mound near the battlefield. Let's see what happens. Just as perhaps he mused. So this particular stanza says about his thoughts, deep thoughts. Mused means deep thoughts. Probably he was thinking. What was his thought? Has been given as lines of the second stanza. My plans that soar. So Napoleon's plans are soaring high up in the sky that might come down and fall to earth. All his thoughts may be shattered when let once my army leader Marshal Lance waver at yonder wall. No, what is he doing? What is the army leader Marshal Lance is doing there in Ratisbon? That was the thought. He had great thoughts. His plans are higher. His plans were ambitious. If Lance would not storm, conquer Ratisbon, all his plans would fall down to earth. As he was thinking, out twixt the battery smokes there flew a rider. So as he was thinking, suddenly, just imagine, out of smoke, there comes a rider. Bound on bound, full galloping. He was just galloping on the horse, nor bridle drew. He was holding the bridle. You can see the bridle here. You can see the bridle, and here the horse has the bridle to control the speed, and he was dragging it towards him so that the horse would reach very fast to reach the mound where his general, his army chief was standing, where Napoleon was standing. The riders was very, very particular that he wanted to reach his army commander, his army chief Napoleon, as soon as possible. So he was galloping on the horse in a great speed. Why? Why was he so quick? Why was he drawing the bridle of the horse and galloping at a great speed? Yes, of course, you might think if he brings some important news, he has to bring it as quick as possible to the commander chief. Yes, of course. Let's see what is the reason behind. Then off there flung in smiling joy, and held himself erect by just his horse's mane, a boy you hardly could suspect. That's when there flung in smiling joy, and he was sitting on the horse erect. He was not at all bending down. He was found erect, and by just his horse's mane, the growth of hair on the head, on the neck of horse, a boy you hardly could suspect. But his mouth so tight he kept his lips. What happened to his lips? It is compressed. What's the meaning of compressed? Pressed together. Why is he doing that? Has he got anything inside that would come out of his mouth? See how he gallops. He was galloping in great speed, but his lips compressed, and he was straightened. He was erect, and he was erect. You looked twice before air means before you saw his breast, that means his chest was all but shot in two. As soon as he came, if you could see him for the second time, you can find his heart was broken, tore down into two. What's happening with the soldier, young soldier? Well, cried the emperor, by God's grace, we have got you, Ratisbon. And that boy, the young soldier, brings the great news. Robert Browning was a religious person. That's why he uses God's grace. And the young soldier says, well, Emperor, by God's grace, we have got you, Ratisbon. We have conquered. We have won Ratisbon for you. The Marshal Lance is in the marketplace, and you will be there. You will be there. Anon. What is the meaning of anon? Soon. To see your flag, bird flap his vans, where I to heart's desire perched him. The chief's eye flashed, his plans soared up again like fire. Here, you see, and you'll be there anon. Anon means soon. So after he brings the victory news and he's telling Marshal Lance is in the marketplace and you will also be there soon because this young soldier is telling that he has made the French flag fly high in his own hands. He perched it. To see your flag bird flap his vans. The French flag has that emblem of a bird flapping his wings. And you will go there and you will see our French flag is flying high in Ratisbonne. As soon as he heard the news, the chief's eyes flashed. His face was full of joy, delight. He was flying high. His plans soared up again like fire. No, he was doubting in the previous stanzas whether it would fall, it might fall down to earth. His plans might fall down to earth, but now his plans soaring up again like fire. The chief's eyes flashed, but presently softened itself. Why? There is a change of expression on his face. His eyes flashed. His eyes were bright, receiving the happiest news of conquering Ratisbonne, but presently softened itself. Suddenly, the flash of his eyes as softened as sheets filled the mother eagle's eye when a bruised eaglet breeds. Sheets means covers. Suddenly, some layer, softens the brightness of the eyes, as if an eagle, mother eagle, when he sees the eaglet, wounded eaglet, how it would feel. So and so, Napoleon's eyes covered with tears to look at this soldier. As soon as this young soldier delivered the happy news, his compressed lips opened and blood oozed out of his mouth. Immediately, the chief asked, "You are wounded. You are wounded. My soldier, you are wounded." What did he say? Nay, a soldier's pride touched to the quick, he says, "No, no, commander, no, I am not wounded." Quickly he responded, "What is that?" "I am killed, sire. I am killed, sire." Would you say that? Would you say that? Can anyone say that after being killed, after being shot, and is almost dying? Can anyone say gladly, "No, sir, I am killed"? Saying so, his chief beside, smiling, look at this word, is not worried about death, about dying. He is not groaning in pain. All his mind was focused to deliver the happy news, and he has achieved something great for his country. See the spirit of sacrifice, see the spirit of patriotism. He exclaimed with pride that French had conquered Ratisbonne, and he himself had hoisted the flag of France. Just then, this soldier proudly said that he was killed. and he was smiling and died heroically. And died heroically. What a beautiful incident in the French camp. This is not a built up story or written poem, but it was the actual incident. Even today, we have so many soldiers fighting for our countries, dying to save, to safeguard the country. And here is one such young soldier who sacrificed his life. His patriotism is great. And Napoleon was moved as the mother eagle to see the bruised, wounded eaglet. He must be in tears of joy and sorrow. Joy of winning, conquering Ratisbon, and sorrow of losing such a great soldier. Hope you understand. Thanks for watching. God bless.